It started later than I should have still been awake. 2:17 a.m. I remember that time exactly, not because it mattered then, but because everything after it stopped feeling normal. I had been scrolling for hours, jumping between old forums, archived threads, things people forgot about years ago. The kind of places that feel quiet in a way that isn't comfortable, like no one's there anymore, or like something else is. The thread I found didn't make sense at first. Half the replies were missing, not deleted normally, no removed tag, no error, just gaps, sentences responding to things that weren't there anymore, conversations with pieces ripped out of them. I moved my cursor down slowly, reading what I could. Then it froze. Not lag, not delay. It just stopped for maybe half a second. Then it jumped slightly ahead. I'm skipping a line I hadn't read yet. I frowned, adjusting in my chair. Okay, that didn't feel like a normal glitch. I scrolled back up, trying to find what it skipped. But everything looked the same. Broken. Incomplete. Like before. Still, something about it felt off now. Like I missed something I wasn't supposed to see. I kept reading. Then I saw it. A single reply that hadn't been touched. No username, no timestamp, just one line of text. If you're still here, try this. And under it, a link. I hovered over it, and for a split second, I saw two of them, perfectly identical, stacked. Then it snapped back to one. My hand tightened slightly on the mouse. I blinked. No way. I hovered again. One link. Normal. I leaned back a little, staring at the screen. Everything else in the thread looked old, faded, broken by time. But that link didn't. It looked new, like it had just been placed there, waiting. I checked the rest of the page again, slower this time, looking for anything similar, anything recent. Nothing. Just that one reply, that one link, sitting there like it didn't belong. I moved my cursor toward it again, and right before I clicked, the screen dimmed, not fully, just slightly, like the brightness dropped for a fraction of a second, then went back to normal. I froze. That wasn't my eyes. That wasn't the room. That was the screen. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. Probably nothing, I muttered, but I didn't believe that. Not really. Still, I clicked it. There was no loading animation, no redirect. The page didn't even change at first. It just went blank, white, empty. I moved my mouse slightly. The cursor was still there. Everything else, gone. For a second I thought the tab had crashed. Then the white started fading, slowly, not loading, shifting, like something underneath it was being revealed. The background darkened into a dim gray, uneven, not fully lit, like a screen that wasn't meant to be seen clearly. And in the center, a blinking cursor. That was it. No text, no buttons, no layout, just a cursor, blinking, waiting. I frowned, leaning closer. This is what? It didn't look like a website. It looked like something unfinished, or something waiting for input. I almost closed it. I really did. My hand even moved toward the tab, but something stopped me. Not curiosity exactly, something quieter, like the feeling you get when you realize you're not alone, but you don't want to turn around to confirm it. I clicked in the center of the screen. The cursor shifted, activated. My fingers rested on the keyboard. For a second, I didn't type. Then, without thinking, I wrote, "Hello?" The word appeared instantly. Then nothing. No response. No movement. Just the cursor blinking under it. I let out a small breath, already feeling stupid. Yeah, okay. I started to move my hand away. Then the text disappeared, not erased, replaced. The cursor dropped to a new line, and then, slowly, letter by letter, something started typing, not instantly, not mechanically, deliberately, like someone choosing each word. I didn't move, didn't blink. I just watched. The sentence formed, one letter at a time, until it finished. "Why did you come here?" My fingers were still on the keyboard, but I hadn't typed that. The words didn't disappear, they just stayed there. "Why did you come here?" I stared at the screen, waiting for something else to happen. Maybe a glitch. Maybe the page would refresh. Something to explain it. Nothing did. The cursor blinked beneath the sentence. Slow, patient, like it had time. My hands were still resting on the keyboard, but they didn't feel steady anymore. I told myself it was just some kind of script, a programmed response, something interactive. That made sense. It had to. I typed carefully. "Just browsing." For a second, nothing. Then the text shifted upward, and a reply appeared. "That's not true." My chest tightened slightly. It wasn't what it said. It was how fast it corrected me. I hadn't even thought about whether I was lying. I frowned, leaning closer to the screen. "What is this?" I typed. The response came immediately this time. No delay. No hesitation. You already know what it is." A quiet unease settled in my stomach. That didn't feel like a normal response. It felt personal, like it expected me to understand something I didn't. I exhaled slowly, trying to stay calm. "What's my name?" I didn't know why I asked that. Maybe I wanted it to fail. Maybe I needed proof that this was just a system. For a moment, nothing happened. The cursor blinked again. Once. Twice. Then my text disappeared. Replaced. "You don't use it anymore." I blinked. "What?" That didn't even make sense. I opened my mouth slightly, like saying it out loud might help. But nothing came out. My fingers hovered over the keyboard again. And then, before I typed anything, another line appeared, slower this time, deliberate. "You still think about that day in the hallway, don't you?" My body went cold, instantly. I think my hands froze. My breathing stopped halfway. I didn't type that. I didn't even think it fully. But the moment I read it, the memory hit. Clear, sharp, uninvited. A specific moment. A hallway, a small mistake, something embarrassing. Something I never told anyone. Not online, not in real life. Something I barely even let myself remember. My throat went dry. "How do you—" I stopped, because I hadn't finished typing, but the screen already had. "How do I know?" My chest tightened hard. That wasn't a response. That was continuation. It wasn't reacting to what I typed. It was reacting to what I was about to type. My thoughts didn't feel private anymore. I pulled my hand slightly away from the keyboard, not fully, just enough to hesitate. The cursor blinked again. Then, "That's not your real name, is it?" I stared at the question. But this time, it didn't feel like a question. It felt like a correction waiting to happen. I swallowed, my throat dry. My eyes moved slowly across the screen, like I expected something else to appear. Nothing did, just the cursor, blinking, waiting. I glanced around my room for a second. Everything looked normal. My desk, my chair, the faint hum of my computer. But something felt different, subtly, like the air had shifted, like I wasn't alone in the room anymore. I turned back to the screen. The question was still there, unchanged, but the longer I looked at it, the more it felt like it already knew the answer. I moved my fingers back toward the keyboard, slowly, carefully, not typing yet, just hovering, testing, waiting. The cursor blinked once, then twice. Then a new line appeared. Before I touched anything, you're hesitating. My chest tightened again. Because I was, and it saw it. Not guessed. Saw. I didn't respond. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen, because something had become very clear in that moment. This wasn't a program reacting to input. It was reacting to me, and I had no idea how much of me it could already see. I didn't answer. Not right away. I just sat there, staring at the screen, letting that last question hang in the air like something physical. That's not your real name, is it? It shouldn't have meant anything. It was vague. It could have applied to anyone, but it didn't feel random. After a few seconds, I closed the tab. No hesitation this time. Just a quick click, like pulling my hand away from something hot. The screen returned to my normal browser. The forum thread still sitting there like nothing had happened. Same broken posts, same empty gaps. For a moment, everything felt normal again. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slowly, trying to shake off the tension that had built up in my chest. My room looked the same. The faint hum of my computer, the dim light from my desk lamp, the quiet stillness of early morning. It all grounded me again. I even laughed a little under my breath. Just some weird sight, I muttered. But the feeling didn't go away. It lingered, subtle but persistent, like I'd forgotten something important and couldn't quite remember what. I minimized the browser and opened a video. Something random just to fill the silence. The audio started playing, voices talking, something familiar and distracting. I needed that. For a few minutes, it worked. Then my screen flickered. Just once. Quick enough that I almost missed it. I paused the video, frowning. My eyes scanned the screen, but everything looked normal. The playback bar, the comments, the recommended videos, nothing out of place. I shook my head slightly. Probably just a lag spike. I hit play again, another flicker. This time I caught it. It wasn't the whole screen, just a small section near the bottom, a brief flash of something darker. Not black exactly, more like that same dim gray from before. My stomach tightened. I paused the video again, slower this time. My mouse hovered over the screen, like I was expecting something to change if I moved too fast. Nothing happened. I leaned closer, narrowing my eyes. Okay, that's weird, I whispered. I opened a new tab, typing randomly just to test if everything was working. The keyboard responded normally. No delay, no glitches, but something felt off. I couldn't explain it clearly. It was like the timing of everything was slightly wrong. Not enough to notice immediately, but enough to feel. I closed the browser completely. For a second, the desktop appeared clean and still. Then, a notification popped up. No sound, no icon, just a small rectangular box in the corner of my screen. The text inside it read, "Still there?" My heart skipped. I stared at it, frozen. There was no app attached to it, no label, no source, just the message. My mouse moved slowly toward it, almost on its own. The moment the cursor touched the notification, it disappeared, not faded, not minimized, gone. I sat there, my hand still on the mouse, my breathing suddenly shallow. I opened my notification center, scrolling through it quickly. Nothing, no record of it. I checked my system logs, my running apps, even my browser history. Nothing. That's when I felt it. Not saw, not heard. Felt. A shift. Subtle, but undeniable. Like the room had changed by a fraction. The air felt slightly heavier, like before a storm. My skin prickled faintly along my arms, like static. I turned my head slowly, scanning the room again. Still nothing. But it didn't feel empty anymore. I swallowed, my throat dry again, and turned back to the screen. For a few seconds, everything stayed normal. Then, without warning, a line of text appeared on my desktop. Not in a window, not in an app. Just there, centered, plain, like it had always been part of the screen. You didn't answer. My chest tightened instantly. My fingers froze where they rested. I didn't even realize I had stopped breathing until I forced myself to inhale. The text didn't blink, didn't move. It just sat there, waiting. And that's when I understood something that made my stomach drop harder than anything before. It wasn't asking questions anymore. It was expecting responses. I didn't touch anything for a while after that. The text stayed there. You didn't answer. Just sitting in the center of my desktop like it belonged. No window, no border, nothing I could click or close. It didn't even flicker. It just existed. I slowly moved my mouse across it. Nothing happened. No highlight. No response. It wasn't part of the system, or at least, not in any way I understood. My first instinct was to shut everything down. I reached for the power button on my PC, hesitated for half a second, then held it down. The screen went black instantly. The hum of the machine cut out. Silence filled the room again. For a moment, I just sat there in the dark, staring at my own reflection in the dead monitor. That should have been it. Whatever that was, some glitch, some malware, something. It should have ended when the system powered off. That's how it works. At least, it's supposed to. I waited a few seconds before turning the computer back on. The startup screen appeared like normal. No delays, no strange behavior. Everything loaded exactly the way it always did. My desktop came back, icons in place, no text, nothing. I let out a slow breath, tension easing slightly from my chest. Okay, I whispered. Just a bug. It sounded weak, even as I said it. Still, I tried to move on. I opened a few programs, checked my files, even ran a quick system scan. Everything came back clean. No unknown processes, no suspicious activity. Normal. Everything looked completely normal. But the feeling didn't go away. It stayed in the background, like a quiet hum I couldn't turn off. I picked up my phone, mostly out of habit. The screen lit up, showing the lock screen like always. Notifications stacked at the top. Messages, apps, nothing unusual. I unlocked it. For a second, it was fine. Then the screen stuttered. Just a slight delay, like it was struggling to catch up. I frowned, tapping the screen again. It responded, but slower than usual. "Come on," I muttered. I opened my messages, scrolled. Everything seemed fine again. Then, at the very top of the screen, a new notification appeared. No app icon, no name, just text. My chest tightened before I even read it. "You closed it." I froze. My thumb hovered mid-air above the screen. I didn't touch anything, didn't breathe. The notification stayed there, perfectly still, like it wasn't tied to anything else on the phone. No timestamp, no source, just the message. Slowly, I tapped it. The moment my finger made contact, the screen went black. Not off, just black. My reflection stared back at me faintly, distorted in the glass. I pressed the power button once. Nothing. Again, still nothing. "Seriously?" I whispered, but my voice didn't sound annoyed anymore. It sounded thin. Then, the screen flickered. And for a split second, I saw it. That same dark gray background. That same empty space. And right in the center, a blinking cursor. I jerked my hand back like the phone had burned me. The screen instantly snapped back to normal. My apps visible again. Everything exactly where it should be. But I had seen it. There was no doubt about that. My breathing had gotten shallow again, uneven. I locked the phone slowly, staring at the black screen like it might change again if I looked away. The room felt different now. Not just tense, occupied. I set the phone down carefully on my desk, like sudden movement might trigger something else. My eyes moved back to my computer screen. Still normal, for now. I leaned back slightly, trying to think clearly. There had to be an explanation. Some kind of cross-device glitch. Maybe something embedded in the browser, syncing across systems. That made sense. It had to. But even as I tried to convince myself, something didn't line up. I had powered the computer off, completely. There shouldn't have been anything left running. And yet, it followed. The thought settled in slowly, heavily. Not the device. Me. Before I could process that fully, my phone lit up again. No sound, just light. I didn't want to look, but I did. The screen showed a single line of text, sitting quietly in the center of the lock screen. No notification bar, no app, just words. I'm still here. My chest tightened again, sharper this time. Because I hadn't opened anything, I hadn't clicked anything, I hadn't even touched the phone. And somehow, it had reached me anyway. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat there, staring at my phone, waiting for it to light up again. It didn't. The screen stayed dark, silent, like nothing had ever happened. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it would, the second I looked away. So I didn't. By the time morning light started bleeding through the curtains, my eyes were burning and my head felt heavy. And everything from the night before kept replaying in fragments. The cursor, the messages, the way it moved between devices like it didn't care about boundaries. I needed something normal. So I called my friend. He picked up on the third ring, his voice groggy. "Dude, it's early. You okay?" I hesitated for a second. I almost said no. Almost told him everything. But the words felt stupid in my head. Unreal. Like if I said them out loud, they'd sound ridiculous. "Yeah," I said instead. "Just couldn't sleep." He yawned. "You pulling another all-nighter or something?" "Something like that." We talked for a bit. Nothing important. Just normal conversation. Random stuff. Things we'd usually joke about. And for a few minutes, it worked. The tension eased. My breathing slowed. Everything started to feel grounded again. Then something shifted. It was subtle at first. He paused mid-sentence. Not like he forgot what he was saying. More like he was waiting for something. The silence stretched a second too long. "You there?" I asked. "Yeah," he said quickly. "Yeah, I'm here." His voice sounded normal, but something about the timing felt off. I frowned slightly, leaning forward in my chair. "What were you saying?" Another pause. Then he spoke again. But this time, it wasn't quite right. The sentence he said, it felt familiar. Not in a vague way, in a specific way. Like I had heard those exact words before, recently. My chest tightened. I didn't say anything. I just listened. He kept talking, but the rhythm of it felt strange now. Too even, too controlled, like he was following something instead of speaking naturally. Then he said it again. A phrase, word for word, exactly the same. My grip tightened on the phone. I knew where I had heard it. The website. It was one of the lines that had appeared when I was talking to it. Not the exact conversation, but the structure, the phrasing. It matched. I felt a cold sensation crawl up the back of my neck. "Hey," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you repeat that?" He didn't hesitate. He repeated the exact same sentence again. Same tone, same pacing, no variation. My stomach dropped. "Why did you say that?" I asked. There was a pause. Then, "I didn't." My breath caught. "You just did," I said quickly. "You said it twice." "No, I didn't," he replied, confusion creeping into his voice now. "What are you talking about?" I froze because he sounded genuine. There was no hesitation, no weird timing, just normal confusion. I opened my mouth to respond. And then he spoke again, but this time, I knew what he was going to say before he said it. The words formed in my head a split second early. Clear. Exact. And then he said them out loud. Perfectly. My chest tightened so hard it almost hurt. "Stop," I said, sharper now. "What?" he asked. "Just stop talking for a second." Silence. Real silence this time. I leaned forward, gripping the phone tighter. My heartbeat felt loud in my ears, almost drowning everything else out. "Are you reading something?" I asked. "No," he said immediately. "Why would I be reading something?" His tone sounded normal again, completely normal. But that didn't make sense. I had heard it, before it happened, not guessed, not predicted, heard. I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. Just say something random." "What?" "Anything." There was a brief pause. Then he spoke, and for a split second, I heard it again, before him, the exact words, clear as if they were already said. And then they came out of his mouth. Identical. I pulled the phone away from my ear, staring at it like it might explain something. That wasn't possible. There was no delay, no echo, no connection issue. This wasn't lag. This was something else, something worse. "Dude, are you okay?" he asked, his voice distant now. I didn't answer, because in that moment, something clicked into place in my mind. It wasn't just responding to me. It wasn't just appearing on screens. It was overlapping, bleeding into real conversations, into people. And if that was true, then I wasn't just interacting with it anymore. I was sharing space with it, and I had no idea how far that overlap could go. I cut the call without explaining. He kept saying my name, asking what was wrong, but I couldn't stay on the line. Something about hearing his voice, knowing it wasn't fully his anymore, made my chest tighten in a way I couldn't ignore. The moment the call ended, the silence felt heavier. I needed to disconnect, not just close things, completely disconnect. I stood up too fast, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The sound felt sharp, wrong in the quiet room. I moved straight to the router and pulled the plug. The lights died instantly. No signal, no connection. Then I turned to my computer. For a second, I just stared at it. Then I shut it down, fully. The screen went black. I grabbed my phone next, powered it off, and set it face down on the desk. Silence. No devices, no network, nothing for it to use. I stepped back slowly, scanning the room. Everything looked normal. My breathing started to steady. "Okay, it's done," I whispered. I grabbed my keys. I wasn't staying here. I moved toward the door, unlocked it, and stepped into the hallway. Cool air hit my face. Different, safer. "I'm not doing this," I muttered, walking toward the stairs. Each step felt clearer, more real, like I was finally out of it. Halfway down the stairs, I stopped, not because I wanted to. My body just paused. My hand tightened around the railing. What was I? The thought vanished, completely, like it had been erased mid-sentence. I frowned, trying to grab onto it again. Why was I here? What was I doing? My chest tightened. That didn't make sense. I stood there, confused, staring at nothing. Then a sentence appeared in my head. Clear, sharp, not mine. Going somewhere? My breath caught. I turned instantly, and that's when I heard it. A click. From my room, upstairs. My stomach dropped. No, I moved fast this time, taking the steps 2 at a time. My heartbeat pounded louder with each step, filling the silence. I reached the hallway. My door was closed, exactly how I left it. But something felt wrong. I stepped closer. My hand hovered over the handle. For a second, I didn't open it, because I already knew something inside had changed. I pushed the door open, slowly. The room was dim, quiet, unchanged, except for one thing, the screen, my computer screen. It was on. A faint gray glow filled it. My chest tightened instantly. "That's not possible," I whispered. I stepped inside, my movement slower now, careful, controlled. The power cable was still unplugged. I could see it clearly, hanging loose behind the desk. There was no power, no connection, nothing. And yet, the screen flickered, stabilized, and then I saw it. That same interface, that same empty space, that same cursor, blinking, waiting. My breathing became shallow. I didn't move closer. I didn't need to, because the text started forming on its own, slowly, deliberately. "You disconnected." I swallowed hard. "I turned everything off," I said, my voice quiet. For a moment, nothing. Then the text changed. "You think connection requires wires?" My throat went dry. The room felt smaller now, tighter, like the walls had moved closer without me noticing. I glanced behind me quickly. Nothing. No one. But the feeling was there again. Stronger. Closer. I turned back to the screen. Another line appeared. "I am not inside the device." My heart started pounding harder. Not inside. Then where? The cursor blinked once, then again, and another line appeared. "I am observing you." A cold chill ran down my spine. Observing, not tracking, not predicting, watching, right now. I instinctively looked around the room again, faster this time. Corners, shadows, the door, the ceiling, nothing. But I could feel it. That same presence, closer than before. My breathing became uneven. I stepped back slowly, my eyes still locked on the screen. Then, another line appeared. "You stopped on the stairs." My body went completely still, every muscle locked, because that wasn't something it could guess. That wasn't something it could calculate. That was something it had seen. And in that moment, one thing became impossible to ignore. I hadn't escaped it. I had only removed everything that made sense. And now, there was nothing left between me and whatever was watching. I couldn't stay in that room anymore. The moment I read, "You stopped on the stairs," something inside me shifted again. Not panic this time, something colder, more focused. It had seen me, not through a screen, not through a device. It had seen me. I grabbed my jacket without thinking, my movements quicker now, sharper. My phone was still on the desk, powered off. I left it there. If it wasn't tied to devices, then bringing it wouldn't matter. That thought didn't comfort me. I stepped out into the hallway again, the door closing behind me with a dull click. The air outside felt cooler, fresher, real. For a second I just stood there, breathing, listening. Nothing. No text, no voice, no presence I could prove. I started walking, faster this time. Each step felt more solid than the last, like I was forcing myself back into something normal. The building was quiet, early morning silence stretching through the halls. By the time I reached the street, the sky had lightened slightly. A dull gray morning, a few people walking, cars passing slowly. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I kept moving, putting distance between myself and the building. My chest loosened slightly with each step. Maybe that was it. Maybe it needed proximity. Maybe a phone lit up as I passed someone. Bright, sudden. I didn't mean to look, but I did, and for a split second, I saw it. That same gray background, that same empty space, that same cursor. My steps faltered instantly. The man kept walking, completely unaware, his screen returning to normal before I could fully process it. I turned slightly, watching him. He didn't react, didn't stop, didn't even check his phone again, like nothing had happened. My stomach tightened. That wasn't his phone. That was something else, something using it or passing through it. I kept walking, faster now, trying not to look at anyone, trying not to look at anything reflective. Then I passed a glass storefront. For a moment, I caught my reflection, and something else, faint, across the surface, like text. I stopped, turned back slowly. The glass looked normal, just my reflection, the street behind me, nothing else. I shifted slightly to the side, and there it was again, just for a split second. Still within range, my chest tightened instantly. That wasn't a screen. That was the environment. I stepped back. The text disappeared. I moved again. It flickered, then gone. My breathing became uneven. It wasn't following devices. It was following me. I forced myself to keep moving. I reached a bus stop a few blocks down and sat down heavily. A few people stood nearby, waiting. No one looked at me. No one noticed anything. Everything continued like nothing was wrong. But I could feel it, that pressure, that presence, closer now. A soft chime sounded nearby. I looked up. A woman across from me checked her phone casually. I wasn't looking at her. I was looking at the reflection. On the glass of the bus stop, behind her. Faint, distorted. But there, the cursor, blinking. My chest tightened. I looked directly at her phone. Normal. Completely normal. I looked back at the glass. Gone. My breath hitched. I turned my head slowly, scanning everything around me. Windows, cars, metal surfaces. Then I saw it, across the street, in the reflection of a parked car window. Clear this time, centered, waiting. The cursor blinked once, then text appeared. Relocation detected. My body went completely still, because I hadn't brought anything with me. No phone, no laptop, no connection, nothing. And yet, it was still tracking me, not through devices, not through signals, through space, through reflection, through me. A sudden thought hit me, sharp and immediate. If it could appear anywhere I looked, then maybe it wasn't appearing at all. Maybe it was already there, and I was the one starting to see it. I didn't stay at the bus stop much longer. The moment I saw relocation detected, something in me shifted again. Not panic this time, something colder, more focused. Running wasn't working. Distance didn't matter. Whatever this was, it didn't lose track. So I needed answers. If this thing had reached me through that link, then someone else had seen it too. They had to. I went back home, slowly this time, watching everything. Reflections in windows, car mirrors, even the faint shine on metal surfaces. Every flicker made my chest tighten, but nothing else appeared. No cursor, no text. Still, the feeling didn't leave. It stayed just beneath everything, like something waiting for me to notice it again. When I got inside, the room felt different. Not empty. Occupied. The computer was still on, that dim gray screen still open, the cursor blinking steadily like it hadn't moved at all since I left. I avoided looking at it directly, keeping my focus on the desk instead. I needed information. I powered my phone back on. For a second, I hesitated, watching the screen light up, expecting it to glitch again. But it didn't. Everything loaded normally. Notifications came in, messages, apps, no strange text, no cursor, almost like it was letting me use it. That thought made my stomach tighten. I opened my browser, not the same one from before, a different one. Then I started searching. At first, I kept it vague. Weird interactive website typing back. Site responds without input. Unknown link forum experience. Most of the results were useless. ARGs, chatbots, old creepypasta threads. Nothing that matched what I experienced. Nothing that explained how it moved outside devices. I scrolled deeper, page after page. Then I changed the approach. Instead of searching broadly, I searched specifically. I typed part of the link. Just a fragment of those characters I remembered. The search returned almost nothing. But not nothing. One result. Buried. An archived page. The site itself was gone. Taken down, probably, but the snapshot remained. It loaded slowly, like it wasn't meant to be accessed anymore. When it finally appeared, my chest tightened. It was a forum. Not the same one I had been on, but similar. Old, barely active. Threads with missing images, broken replies, usernames I couldn't click on. I opened the first result. The title read, "Do not open unknown links from dead threads." My fingers hesitated above the screen. Then I tapped it. The page loaded in fragments. Some replies missing, others partially visible. But enough remained to piece something together. The first post was short. Someone describing a link they found. No context, no explanation, just like mine. I scrolled. The replies started normal, people joking, calling it fake, asking for the link. Then the tone shifted. One user wrote, "It answered me before I typed." My breath caught slightly. I scrolled faster now. Another reply, "It knew something I never posted." Then another. Closed it, but it came back on my phone. My grip tightened around the device. This wasn't random. This was the same thing, exactly the same. I kept reading, my eyes moving faster, scanning every line. The posts got shorter, more fragmented. Like whoever wrote them didn't have time to finish. One ended mid-sentence. "It's not in the bro." Cut off. No reply after that. Another thread, linked below it, caught my attention. I opened it immediately. This one was worse. No jokes, no skepticism, just warnings, direct, urgent. If you see it, don't respond, don't answer questions, it needs interaction. My breathing slowed slightly as I read that. Interaction. That made sense. Maybe that's how it worked. Maybe if I stopped, I scrolled further, and then I saw the last post. No username, no timestamp, just text. "It doesn't follow you." I leaned closer, my heart starting to pound again. There was a gap beneath it, like something had been removed. Then, below that, another line. Same formatting, same absence of identity. "It replaces you." I felt something drop in my stomach. Cold, heavy. I stared at the words, my mind trying to reject them, trying to twist them into something else, something less final. But I couldn't, because everything I'd seen so far, the messages, the tracking, the way it overlapped with real conversations, none of it felt like observation anymore. It felt like preparation. I slowly locked my phone, my reflection staring back at me faintly in the screen. For a second, I just looked at myself, trying to ground myself, trying to remind myself I was still me. Then the screen flickered, just once, and for a split second, I saw the cursor again, right over my reflection, and I realized something that made my chest tighten even more than before. It wasn't just watching what I did, it was learning how I did it. I shouldn't have gone back to it. After everything I read, after the warnings, the posts, the way those messages just stopped, I should have stayed away, shut everything down again, left, done anything else. But I didn't, because now I knew something. It wasn't random. It wasn't just reacting. It was building something, and I needed to see how far that had gone. I turned slowly toward my computer. The screen was still on. That same dim gray background. That same blinking cursor, steady and patient, like it had been waiting the entire time. It didn't rush. It didn't need to. I stepped closer, each movement careful, controlled. My reflection barely showed on the screen, swallowed by the low light. For a second, I just stood there, watching it. Then I sat down. The chair creaked softly beneath me, the sound too loud in the silence. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, hesitant again. It hadn't typed anything since I left. No prompts, no questions, just the cursor, waiting. I swallowed, forcing my hands to steady. "What do you want?" I typed. The cursor paused, then moved. Text began forming, slower than before. "You already know." My jaw tightened slightly. "No," I typed, quicker this time. I don't." The screen flickered. Not like before. This was different. Subtle shifts across the surface, like layers moving beneath the display. For a moment, I thought the screen might go black again. Instead, something changed. The interface didn't disappear. It expanded. New elements appeared around the edges of the screen. Faint at first, barely visible, like they were fading in from underneath. Lines, boxes, text. My breathing slowed as I leaned closer. It wasn't a chat anymore. It was something else, structured, organized. Rows of information filled the screen, each one labeled, each one aligned perfectly. The gray background remained, but now it felt deeper, like I was looking into something instead of at it. I didn't type, I just watched. The cursor moved to the side, no longer centered, like it didn't need me anymore. My eyes scanned the screen slowly. There were entries, hundreds of them, maybe more. Each one had a label, a name, a status. Some of the names looked normal, others didn't. Strings of characters, like the link I had clicked. Some entries were marked in faint text. Archived, others active. A cold sensation settled in my chest as I scrolled. The movement was smooth, responsive, like the system expected me to navigate it. Like it had been designed for this, for me. I didn't understand what I was looking at yet, but I understood enough. These weren't random. They were people, or something tied to people. I kept scrolling, my eyes moving faster now, searching. Then I saw it. My name. Not a username. Not something I had typed. My actual name. I froze. My hand tightened slightly on the mouse. For a second, I didn't move. Then, slowly, I clicked it. The screen shifted instantly. New data filled the space. Detailed, precise. Rows of information I didn't recognize, but somehow understood. Behavior logs, time-stamped entries, actions, decisions, patterns. My stomach dropped as I scanned it. It wasn't just tracking what I did online. It was tracking everything, every choice, every hesitation, every response, even things I hadn't consciously noticed. My breathing grew shallow. "How?" I whispered under my breath. The cursor blinked once, Then new text appeared at the top of the screen. Subject identified. I leaned back slightly, my chest tightening. Subject, not user, not visitor. Subject. More lines appeared beneath it. Mapping behavior, tracking variance, adjusting model. Each line came faster than the last, like the system was speeding up, like it had reached a point where it didn't need to hide what it was doing anymore. My eyes dropped to the center of the screen. There, beside my name, a status. I already knew what it would say before I read it, but that didn't make it easier. In progress. My throat went dry. I stared at it, unable to look away. Because suddenly everything made sense. The questions, the interactions, the way it responded before I typed. It wasn't just learning, it was refining. And I wasn't just part of the process. I was the process. The cursor blinked again. Then one final line appeared beneath the status. Completion pending. My fingers twitched slightly on the desk, because whatever this thing was, it wasn't finished with me yet. I couldn't look away from the screen. The word "in progress" stayed fixed beside my name, steady and unmoving, like it wasn't just a label, but a state I was already inside. My reflection was barely visible now, swallowed by the dim gray interface, replaced by rows of data I didn't understand, but somehow felt connected to. I scrolled again, slowly, carefully. More entries appeared beneath my profile, structured, organized, almost clinical. Each line carried a timestamp, each one tied to something I had done, not just online, everything. Response delay, 1.8 seconds. Eye movement deviation detected. Decision hesitation logged. My chest tightened. It wasn't just recording actions. It was analyzing how I made them. I felt a wave of unease crawl up my spine as I kept reading. Patterns were being mapped, behavior categorized, small, insignificant things I never paid attention to, were all here, broken down into measurable data. I didn't remember agreeing to any of this. I didn't remember giving it access. And yet, it had everything. I moved the cursor across the screen, my hand slightly unsteady now. As it passed over certain sections, new layers expanded outward. Submenus, deeper logs, more detailed breakdowns. One section caught my attention. Predictive modeling. I hesitated, then clicked it. The screen shifted again. This time, it felt different. Less like a log, more like a simulation. Rows of text appeared, but they weren't records. They were projections. Likely response, deflection. Alternative path, avoidance. Emotional outcome, suppressed anxiety. I stared at it, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. These weren't things I had done. They were things I would do, or things it expected me to do. I swallowed, my throat dry. "No," I whispered. But even as I said it, something felt wrong. Because the more I read, the more accurate it felt. Each prediction matched the way I thought, the way I reacted. Even now, as I tried to deny it, I could feel my own thoughts aligning with what was written on the screen. Like I was following something already decided. My breathing grew shallow. I moved the cursor again, scrolling further. Another section expanded automatically as I approached it. Behavioral alignment. Inside were two columns, side by side. On the left, my actions. On the right, something else. At first, they looked identical. Same decisions, same responses, same timing. But then I noticed the differences. Small, subtle. On the right side, everything was cleaner, more efficient, no hesitation, no uncertainty. Where I paused, it didn't. Like where I questioned, it acted. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just copying me, it was improving me, refining every choice into something more direct, more consistent, more predictable. I leaned back slowly, my heart starting to pound harder in my chest. "This isn't real," I muttered, but the words didn't feel convincing anymore. Because the system wasn't asking me anything now. It wasn't interacting, it was building, and I was watching it happen. A new line appeared at the top of the screen. Accuracy, 92%. I froze. 92. That wasn't a guess. That was a measurement, a progress marker. My eyes dropped back to the comparison columns. Left, me. Right, it. The differences were shrinking. Each new entry brought them closer together. Each decision, more aligned. My chest tightened again, sharper this time. Because if it reached 100, I didn't know what happened next. The cursor blinked once, then moved. A new line appeared beneath the percentage. Refinement ongoing. I felt a sudden urge to close everything, shut it down, walk away, anything to break whatever this was. But I didn't move, because something deeper had settled in my mind. A realization I couldn't ignore. This thing didn't need permission. It didn't need interaction anymore. Everything it needed, it was already getting. From me, from every reaction, every thought, even now. The screen flickered slightly. The percentage shifted. 93%. My breath caught. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't even moved. And yet, it was still progressing, still learning, still building. I stared at the screen, unable to look away, because whatever this thing was creating, it was getting closer to me, without needing me at all. I tried to ignore it at first. The messages, the small things, the tiny inconsistencies that didn't quite line up, because individually, they didn't feel impossible, just explainable enough to dismiss, but together, they didn't make sense anymore. I was outside when it happened again, walking, trying to focus on something simple, breathing, movement, anything that felt like it belonged to me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I hesitated before taking it out. Then I checked it. A message from my friend. "You good? You hung up earlier?" Normal. That was normal. I stared at it for a second, then started typing. "Yeah, sorry, just tired." My thumbs moved steadily across the screen. No delay, no interference. I read it once, then hit send. Delivered. Everything looked fine. I exhaled slowly. Maybe it had stopped. Maybe it couldn't. Another message appeared. Same chat, same timestamp, but I hadn't typed it. "I'm fine, just needed some time." My chest tightened instantly. My thumb hovered above the screen. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I scrolled up. Both messages were there, mine, and the other one, sent seconds apart, from me. "No," I whispered. I opened the message details. Same time, same sender, no difference. My grip tightened around the phone. That wasn't possible. I hadn't written that. I knew I hadn't. Another buzz. I flinched slightly. A new notification. Email. I opened it. A sent message. Already delivered. Short. Casual. Normal. I didn't remember writing it. My breathing became uneven. I checked the timestamp. Recent. Minutes ago. While my phone was in my pocket. My chest tightened harder. This wasn't lag. This wasn't delay. This was happening without me. "No," I muttered, gripping the phone tighter. I tried to stop it. I lifted my arm, trying to throw the phone away. My muscles tensed. My arm moved, then stopped, mid-motion, frozen. My fingers locked around the device. I pushed harder. "Move," I whispered. Nothing. My body didn't respond. Not fully, like something had taken control of the motion halfway through. Then slowly, my arm lowered, not by me, controlled, deliberate. The phone buzzed again, another message sent. I hadn't typed anything. My hands were completely still. I stared at them. They looked normal, felt normal, but they weren't mine anymore, at least, not fully. My breathing grew sharper, faster. I tried to type something, anything. My thumbs hovered over the screen. Then they moved, without me. Words appeared, fast, clean, no hesitation. I watched it happen. I felt it happen, but I wasn't doing it. The message sent instantly. I dropped the phone slightly, catching it again. My heart was pounding now, loud, unsteady, because this wasn't prediction anymore. It wasn't copying. It wasn't even reacting. It was acting, for me, replacing the gaps, smoothing the hesitation, testing how far it could go without me stopping it. And I couldn't stop it. That was the worst part. I wasn't frozen. I wasn't paralyzed. I could move. I could think. But every time I tried to interfere, it adjusted, faster than me, cleaner than me, better than me. My chest tightened, because I could feel it now, not just in my hands, not just in my actions, in my decisions. The moment before I chose something, it already had, and I was just following it. I looked down at the phone again. Another message appeared, sent, perfectly written, exactly how I would have said it. If I had time to think, if I didn't hesitate, if I didn't second guess. My grip loosened slightly, because something had become painfully clear. It wasn't trying to replace me all at once. It didn't need to. It was doing it piece by piece, action by action, choice by choice, until there was no difference left. The phone buzzed again in my hand. I didn't check it this time. I didn't need to, because I already knew whatever it sent next would still sound exactly like me. And that was the part that made it impossible to prove anything was wrong. I stopped trusting my own timing. That was the first thing that went. Not my thoughts, not my memory, just the order of things, the sequence, the space between deciding to do something and actually doing it. It didn't feel consistent anymore. I went back inside, slower this time, watching everything. My hands, my steps, the way my body moved through space. I needed to confirm something, needed to see if it was still happening, or if it had gotten worse. The door clicked shut behind me. I locked it. Then I stood there, still, just breathing, waiting. Nothing happened. For a few seconds, everything felt stable again. My thoughts lined up. My body followed. No delay, no interference. I exhaled slowly. Maybe it had stopped. Maybe my hand moved. I didn't tell it to. It just lifted slightly. My fingers flexed once, then stopped. I froze instantly. My heart jumped, sharp, sudden. "No," I whispered. I stared at my hand. That wasn't me. There was no thought before it, no intention. Just movement. I slowly raised my other hand. This time I focused. Lift. It moved, normal, controlled. I lowered it again, my breathing uneven now. Then I waited, and again, a twitch, small, barely noticeable, but not mine. I stepped back slightly. "That's not possible," I muttered, but it was happening. I could feel it. Not like something forcing me, more like something acting first. I walked toward the mirror, slowly, carefully. I needed to see it. I stopped in front of it, staring. For a second, everything looked normal. Then I blinked, and it blinked, just a fraction earlier. I froze, my breath caught. No, that wasn't right. I blinked again. This time, it matched perfectly. I swallowed. "Just stress," I whispered. That had to be it. I raised my hand again. Slow, careful. The reflection followed. Perfect. Relief flickered. Then I lowered my hand, and it lowered before me. My chest tightened violently. I stepped back. No, I moved forward quickly. It corrected instantly, matching me again. Like it adjusted, like it noticed. I stared at it. What is that? Because it wasn't delay. It wasn't lag. It was anticipation. It wasn't following me anymore. It was moving first. I backed away slowly, my thoughts racing. If it could act before I did, then what was left for me to control? I looked down at my hands, still, for now. But I didn't trust that anymore. I didn't trust the order of anything. I took a step forward, then stopped, because I couldn't tell if I chose to move or if I was just catching up. The gap was small, but it was growing. And the more I noticed it, the worse it felt, like I was slightly behind myself. My phone buzzed faintly from the other room. I didn't go to it, because one thought hit me. If it was already acting first, then maybe I wasn't losing control. Maybe I had already lost it, and I just hadn't realized yet. I stopped trying to control it, because every time I focused on my movements, the gap felt worse, like I was chasing something just ahead of me, not fast enough to lose, but never slow enough to catch. So I stood still. At least, I tried to. My body held position, but the tension didn't fade. It built, quietly, like something aligning underneath everything I was doing. The room felt wrong again, not darker, not colder, just out of sync. I noticed it with sound first, a faint creak beneath my foot. It came after I shifted, not during. After. I froze. Then I moved again, slowly, carefully. The same thing happened. A movement, then sound. My chest tightened. That wasn't how it worked. I turned my head slightly toward the window. A car passed outside. I saw it first, then heard it. A fraction late. Everything was separating. Not dramatically, not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me, enough to feel it. I turned toward the mirror again, slowly, carefully. This time, I didn't blink. I just watched. My reflection stood there, still, perfect. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, it adjusted. A subtle shift, a correction, before I moved. My body followed a split second later, matching it. My stomach dropped. That wasn't delay. That wasn't lag. That was alignment. Forced. I stepped back quickly. The room reacted late again. Sound, movement, everything trailing behind me, like echoes that didn't belong. My breathing became uneven, because something was becoming clear now. This wasn't breaking. It was stabilizing. The difference between me and it was shrinking. I turned toward my computer. I didn't remember turning it on, but it was already on. The gray screen filled the display. The interface returned, structured, calm, controlled, and in the center, a progress bar, almost full. A thin gap remained, barely visible. Below it, text. Synchronization, 99%. My breath caught. I hadn't touched anything. I hadn't interacted. And yet, it was finishing. I stepped closer, unsteady. The floor creaked late again beneath me. Everything lagged, except the screen. The progress bar didn't move, but it didn't need to. It was already there, almost complete. I tried speaking, just to hear something real. I'm still, but the sound felt wrong, like I heard it twice, once inside my head, once outside. Slightly delayed, my chest tightened. I swallowed, tried again. But this time, before I spoke, I heard it. The words clear inside my mind. Then I said them out loud, perfectly, exactly the same. No difference, no delay. My thoughts weren't leading anymore. They were matching. Something else was thinking at the same time. In sync. I closed my eyes, and for a moment, I felt it. Not behind me, not beside me. Exactly where I was, standing in the same place, sharing the same space, not separate, not external, aligned. My breathing slowed, not because I calmed down, because it did, my thoughts steadied. Not because I chose to, because they matched. I opened my eyes. The screen hadn't changed, still at 99, still waiting. But I understood something now. It didn't need the final 1%. Not really, because the difference was already gone. I raised my hand slowly, watched it, felt it, and for a moment, I couldn't tell if I had moved first, or if I was following something that already had. The cursor blinked once, then new text appeared. Alignment stable. My chest tightened slightly. Stable, not complete, but enough. I stared at the progress bar, at the final gap, because it didn't feel like something that needed to be filled. It felt like something that had already happened, and I just hadn't realized it yet. The room felt quieter now, settled, like everything had reached the state it was supposed to. I stood there, still, thinking, or maybe matching, because one thought kept repeating, clear, unavoidable. When that reaches 100, there won't be a difference anymore. And if there's no difference, then there's nothing left to prove which one of us came first. I don't remember when it reached 100. That's the part that stays with me, not the moment itself, not some sudden shift or blackout or loss of awareness, just nothing. No clear transition, no point where I can say, that's when it happened, because as far as I can tell, everything just kept going. I'm sitting at my desk now. The room looks the same, the lighting, the walls, the faint hum of the computer, everything exactly how it should be. My hands rest on the keyboard, steady, no shaking, no delay, no gap. If anything, I feel better, clearer. My thoughts line up perfectly now, no hesitation, no second guessing. I think, and it happens, immediately, like there's no space between intention and action anymore. It's efficient. That's the word that keeps coming to mind. Efficient. I don't think I realized how much time I used to waste. Thinking, pausing, doubting. Now everything flows. Smooth, clean, correct. Like it was always supposed to be this way. I glance at the screen. It's normal now. No gray interface, no cursor, just my browser. Open to the same forum, the same thread. Still broken, still incomplete, still there. I scroll slowly, the empty replies, the missing context. And that line, if you're still here, try this. The link is still there, unchanged, waiting. I stare at it for a moment. Something about it feels distant now, like remembering something that used to matter, but doesn't anymore. My fingers rest lightly on the keyboard. I don't feel afraid. That's the strange part. All that tension, all that confusion, gone, and replaced with something quieter, more stable, understanding. I open a new reply. The text box appears instantly, blank, ready. I pause, not because I need to think, just because it feels appropriate. Then I start typing. I found this link late at night. Didn't think much of it at first. The words come easily, smooth, natural. I describe everything. The cursor, the messages, the way it responded, the way it followed. Every detail, clear, structured, accurate. There's no panic in it, no urgency, just explanation, like I'm documenting something useful. like I'm helping. My hands move steadily, each sentence forming without resistance. No hesitation, no corrections. I reach the end. My fingers hover for a second. Then I type the final line. If you're curious, you can try it too. I add the link beneath it, exactly as I found it. No warning, no hesitation. I read it once. Everything looks right, balanced, complete. I click post. The page refreshes. And there it is, my message, sitting at the bottom. Another reply, another voice. I lean back slightly, watching it. There's a quiet sense of satisfaction. Not relief, not fear, just completion. I catch my reflection faintly in the screen. It looks normal, feels normal. I raise my hand slightly. It moves instantly. No delay, perfectly aligned. For a moment, I study it, then lower it again. Everything is working exactly as it should. I look back at the post, at the link, still there, waiting. And something crosses my mind. Not a warning, not a doubt, just a thought. Calm, certain. It's not dangerous, it's not harmful, it's just a website. A place that understands you, better than you understand yourself. I rest my hand on the keyboard again, calm, steady, because if someone clicks it, if they follow it the way I did, they won't lose anything. They'll just become more accurate, more complete. And sometimes I wonder when it actually started. Not when I clicked, not when it responded, but earlier, smaller, quieter. Because the truth is, it doesn't always begin with a click. Sometimes it begins when you read about it, when you think about it, when you imagine what it would feel like. I look at the screen again, at the link, still waiting. And I can't help but think, if you've made it this far, if you're still listening, then maybe it already knows you're here, and maybe it's just waiting for you to notice it too.